right, so we've got this fascinating collection of Harry Potter excerpts, and I know you're particularly interested in how the series is structured. Um, I mean, how did J.K. Rowling create a world so captivating that people are still completely enthralled all these years later?
Oh, absolutely. And, even these little snippets, just these tiny pieces of the story, they really do showcase the techniques that make the series such a phenomenal success. I mean, it's like we can see the scaffolding, the structure behind the magic, which I think is what we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah, and one thing that I've always been fascinated by is how Rowling uses that classic three-act structure. Yeah. And not just over the whole series, but in each individual book, too. Did you notice anything like that in the excerpts?
Oh, definitely. Like if you take Sorcerer's Stone as a perfect example, you see, like right away in the first few chapters, you get Harry's ordinary world, his introduction to magic, and then that initial spark of mystery surrounding the Sorcerer's Stone. That's Act One already done.
It's so clever how she sets the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you're just getting to know this really ordinary kid, and then boom, this whole hidden world opens up right in front of you. And then that just sets the course for the entire series.
Exactly. And then in the middle act, we see Harry starting to navigate all the challenges of Hogwarts, learning spells, making friends, facing danger. It's like each challenge is a stepping stone towards the climax, that final confrontation with Quirrell and Voldemort down in the dungeons.
It's such a satisfying buildup of tension. Like, I remember reading it the first time and just being absolutely glued to the pages, wondering how Harry was going to escape each time.
And then that resolution at the end when Harry triumphs and the Sorcerer's Stone is destroyed and good conquers evil. It's such a classic happy ending, but it also sets the stage for Voldemort's return and that overarching conflict that really drives the whole series.
It's like that feeling when you close a book and you just instantly want to start the next one,
Yeah.
right? Like you get closure on that particular story, but there's still this little hint, this little taste of what's to come.
And that pattern just repeats in each book. It's like every book is its own little three-act structure, but it's all contributing to the larger arc of the series as a whole. And I think that's such a clever way to provide a sense of progression and keep readers hooked, especially across 7 massive books.
And talking about being hooked, I mean, it's just impossible to ignore how perfectly Harry fits the hero's journey archetype. And it's like every single excerpt, no matter where it comes from, just demonstrates that so clearly.
Absolutely. I mean, it's classic Joseph Campbell, right? From
Right.
that very first moment that Hagrid shows up at that, like, dreary little hut on the rock, that's Harry's call to adventure. He's just plucked from obscurity and thrust into this world he never knew existed.
Yeah, and at first he's so hesitant, almost in denial. Remember that line,
Yeah.
the one you highlighted where he actually tells Hagrid, I think you made a mistake. I
Yeah.
can't be a wizard. And it's like that reluctance just makes his eventual acceptance of, well, of his magical identity all the more powerful.
Exactly. And then he crosses the threshold, leaving the Dursleys behind and stepping into Diagon Alley and then Hogwarts. It's like entering a whole new world full of wonder and danger.
Oh, I remember that feeling of awe when I first read about Diagon Alley. It's like I was stepping into that hidden world myself, surrounded by all those enchanted objects and those endless possibilities.
And then there are the mentors, right? The ones that guide him along the way. I mean, you have Dumbledore, of course, with all that wisdom and that kind of enigmatic guidance. And then you have Hagrid offering warmth, friendship, and that initial introduction to the magical world.
I love how they represent these two different sides of Harry's journey. Like Dumbledore's the wise sage, offering those little cryptic pieces of advice. And then there's Hagrid, who's like this loyal friend who's always there to offer a hug and a cup of tea.
Precisely. Each of those mentors plays a really crucial role in shaping Harry's growth, helping him to confront the challenges and then ultimately prepare for that final battle against Voldemort.
And that's where the hero's journey really shines. It's like through all those trials and tribulations and with the guidance of his mentors, Harry transforms from an ordinary boy to, well, to the powerful wizard who is destined to defeat Voldemort. It's like we're all on that journey with him, and it's just incredibly satisfying to witness.
One thing that's always really struck me about Rowling is how she uses foreshadowing. Like she'll plant these subtle clues throughout the whole series, these little breadcrumbs that hint at these bigger revelations that come later. It makes rereading the books almost addictive, like you already know what's coming, but you can't help but look for those clues.
I know exactly what you mean. Remember that excerpt from Chamber of Secrets that you pointed out? The one where Harry speaks Parseltongue for the first time. At first, it seems like this quirky little skill, nothing more.
It is so fascinating how that one tiny detail that seems so insignificant becomes this major plot point later. revealing Harry's connection to Voldemort, all those secrets from his past.
I remember being absolutely blown away when the truth about that diary and Tom Riddle came out. It made me want to go back and reread everything, searching for those little hidden clues that I missed the first time.
And Rowling does this throughout the whole series. It's like she created this giant puzzle box, and it's slowly revealing its secrets with every page you turn. She's encouraging us to pay attention, look for those connections, and just question everything we think we know.
And that's what makes rereading so rewarding. You discover new layers of meaning and all those connections you didn't see before, and you just appreciate her genius even more.
Exactly. It's a testament to how skillfully she crafted the series, like weaving together all those seemingly separate threads into one cohesive and deeply satisfying whole.
And speaking of satisfying, can we talk about the characters themselves for a minute? Because they're not static. They're not just these figures that stay the same. They grow and they evolve throughout the series, which you can really see even in these really short excerpts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just take Neville Longbottom, for instance. He starts off as this kind of bumbling, forgetful Gryffindor, the one who's constantly overshadowed by his more talented
Oh,
classmates.
he is so relatable. I think everyone feels a bit like Neville at times, a
Yeah.
little unsure of themselves, not quite fitting in.
Right, exactly. But then you see him slowly starting to gain confidence, facing his fears, and stepping up when it matters most. Like, remember that excerpt from Deathly Hallows where he's the one leading the resistance at Hogwarts? It's just this incredible moment of transformation.
That scene gave me chills. Seeing him stand up to Voldemort like that, sword in hand, ready to fight for what he believes in, is the perfect example of how Rowling shows that character growth over time.
And it's not just Neville. Every single character, from Ron to Hermione to even Draco Malfoy, they all undergo significant development throughout the series.
They feel so real, so human, because they're not perfect. They all make mistakes, they'll learn from those mistakes, and then they ultimately become better versions of themselves.
And it's that growth, that evolution that makes us connect with them so deeply. It's like we see ourselves in their struggles, their triumphs, their transformations.
And that's what makes the series so much more than just a good read.
Mm.
It's about the human experience, about growth, about finding your strength, even when you're faced with all these incredible challenges.
And then she balances all of that with the pacing of the story itself. It's this really delicate dance between action, mystery, and those quieter character moments. And I think
Right.
that's one of the reasons why this series is so addictive.
That's so true. Like, one minute you're on the edge of your seat during this thrilling Quidditch match, and the next you're piecing together clues with Harry, Ron, and Hermione trying to solve a mystery that has the whole of Hogwarts on edge.
And then right when you least expect it, she gives you this quiet, introspective moment where the characters are reflecting on their friendships, their losses, and their hopes for the future. It's a masterclass in how to keep readers totally engaged without ever letting the story feel stale or predictable.
You can see it even in these excerpts. Like, one minute you're reading about Harry's very first flying lesson, that sheer joy of soaring through the air. And the next, you're plunged into the darkness of the Forbidden Forest where there's danger lurking around every corner.
Exactly. And that variety is crucial, especially in a series that spans thousands of pages. It keeps the story fresh, exciting, and totally captivating, even if you've read it multiple times.
And I think that's another reason why this series appeals to such a wide audience. There really is something for everyone. You've got action, adventure, mystery, romance, and these deep themes of friendship, loyalty, and courage.
It's a testament to Rowling's skill as a storyteller. She just understands the importance of balance, giving readers those high-octane action moments right alongside those quiet moments of reflection and character development.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more. I mean, we're so invested in those characters, intrigued by the mysteries, and just swept up in the magic of her world.
It's a remarkable achievement, and I think we've only just started to scratch the surface of what makes this series so enduring.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. I can't wait to dig even deeper into these excerpts and see what other secrets we can uncover.
Oh, I think you'll be surprised at what we find. Rowling's attention to detail is just astounding, and I'm sure we'll discover even more clever techniques she used to craft this absolutely captivating world. Welcome back. Glad you could rejoin our exploration of the structural magic behind Harry Potter. It's really something how even these little excerpts, these snippets out of context, can still reveal so much about how Rowling actually put the books together.
Oh, yeah, I'm completely hooked. Last time, we were talking about that three-act structure and the hero's journey. But I feel like there's so much more to uncover. Like,
Mm.
how does she balance these big frameworks with the actual nitty-gritty details of plotting?
Oh, that's such a good point. It's not just about having a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's about how she weaves all these threads together, creates that suspense, and keeps readers guessing right up to that very last page.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Because each book, it has its own central mystery, but there's always these smaller subplots, these hidden connections that kind of keep you on your toes.
Yeah, like if you think about Chamber of Secrets, for instance, you've got those attacks on the Muggle-born students, the messages on the walls, Harry hearing those voices that no one else can hear. It's like each little piece of the puzzle adds to the suspense, and it makes you question who or what is really behind it all.
It's like it's like she's created this giant web and then she just slowly starts to reveal the connections. You think you're following one thread and then suddenly it just intersects with another, taking you down a completely different path.
Right. And then on top of that, she'll introduce these brand new elements, the diary, the legend of the chamber, Harry's parcel tongue, all these things that seem totally separate, but then they all converge in this really satisfying reveal of Tom Riddle.
I remember reading that and just thinking, of course, it all makes sense now. But it's never predictable.
No.
She always manages to surprise you, even when you think you have it all figured out.
That's what's so brilliant about it. I mean, she takes these complex concepts, time turners, prophecies, horcruxes, and she manages to weave them all into the story so seamlessly, using them to drive the plot, challenge the characters, and then deepen our understanding of that whole magical world.
But it's not just about the action and the suspense, right?
Yeah.
I think some of my favorite moments in the whole series are those quieter ones. The ones where you get to see the characters just interacting, their relationships developing, their personalities shining through.
Oh, you're so right. I mean, a really compelling story, it needs both heart and mind. And Rowling really understands that. She gives us those moments of humor, those little bits of friendship and love, and it's all right in the middle of the darkness and the danger.
Those moments that just make the characters feel so real. Like, do you remember all the times Ron and Hermione were at each other's throats? I was convinced they would never end up together.
Oh, that's right. It was hilarious, that constant bickering. But it also, if you look closely, it kind of masked a deeper connection. There was this underlying affection that eventually blossoms into something much more. And it's that slow burn that I think makes their relationship so satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just some simple love story, is it?
Yeah.
It's built on years of friendship, all those shared experiences, and that undeniable chemistry that Rowling portrays so cleverly, even through their arguments.
And then you have those really heartwarming moments with Hagrid, right? Like whether he's sharing tea and rock cakes or just offering Harry a shoulder to cry on, his presence always adds that bit of warmth, that sense of family to the story.
Yeah, he's like the heart of Hogwarts. He grounds the whole story with his love for all those magical creatures and his unwavering loyalty to Dumbledore and to Harry. I always felt this sense of comfort in those scenes, even when things were at their most grim.
I think those quieter moments, those are crucial. They offer that kind of respite from the intense action, and they remind us why the characters are fighting in the first place. It's about protecting the people they care about and the world that they cherish.
It's that emotional depth. That's what makes the series so resonant. You laugh with the characters, you cry with them, you fear for their safety, and then ultimately their triumphs feel like your own.
And Rowling, she just balances all these elements so skillfully. I mean, think about the Quidditch matches, right? They're not just exciting sporting events, they're opportunities to really showcase the characters' skills, their rivalries, and how they work together as a team.
And the commentary. It's hilarious. It adds so much to the energy, the excitement of the matches. It makes you feel like you're right there in the stands cheering with all the other students.
Yeah, and the Quidditch matches, they offer those moments of like adrenaline pumping action, but
Hmm.
they also help us to understand the characters better, and how they relate to each other. And the way they're integrated into the story, it's so seamless. They never feel like filler or a distraction from the main plot.
That's true. Even the lighthearted moments still contribute to the bigger picture. They're either building character or maybe foreshadowing something that's going to happen later on.
That's exactly right. Rowling's a master at weaving all these different elements together to create a cohesive and engaging story. Even just in these excerpts, you can see how she balances action, mystery, and those character moments, and it all works together to keep the readers completely on the edge of their seats.
It's like a roller coaster ride, with its highs and lows, its twists and turns. You never know what's coming next, but you know it's going to be an incredible journey.
And that's what makes Harry Potter so addictive. It's not just a story, it's an experience. You're transported to this magical world, you connect with the characters, and then you get totally invested in their journey.
Talking about being transported, I'm always amazed at how vividly Rowling describes that world. It's not just about the magic, it's those details that make it feel real.
Oh, absolutely. She doesn't just say Hogwarts is a magical castle. She describes those moving staircases, the talking portraits, the ghosts that roam the hallways. It's all about those sensory details.
It's like I can practically taste the butterbeer, smell those strange potions brewing in class, and then hear the crowds during a Quidditch match. Those details are what make it so immersive, so real.
It really is like you're stepping into the story. You can imagine yourself walking through Diagon Alley with all the shops, the peculiar things for sale, and all those eccentric characters.
It's a world that feels familiar and extraordinary at the same time, a place where magic is real, where friendships are made and heroes are born. And it's not just the setting, it's the characters themselves. We get to know all their quirks, their backstories, their dreams, their hopes.
Yeah, we see Ron's obsession with Quidditch, Hermione loving books and knowledge, Hagrid always with a soft spot for those dangerous creatures. It's those tiny little details that make them so real, so relatable.
Exactly. They're not just archetypes or plot devices. They're real individuals. They have their own complexities, their flaws, and their motivations that we can understand, that we can empathize with. And that's what makes us care about them so much.
You're absolutely right, and it's that depth of characterization that makes us invested in their journeys, their struggles, their triumphs. It's like we're right there with them. We're laughing, crying, and cheering them on every step of the way.
It's like we become part of their world, sharing those adventures and celebrating their victories as if they were our own. I mean, Rowling's mastery of that whole story structure, it's undeniable. From the big picture right down to the tiniest detail. Her choices create this captivating reading experience that's just captured millions of readers all over the world.
It's honestly remarkable how she manages to balance everything. The intricate plots, the relatable characters, the vivid world she's built, and that pacing that keeps you engaged from the very first page to the last. It's a testament to her skill as a writer and to her understanding of what really makes a story captivating.
We've talked about so much, all the elements that really make this series so captivating. But I want to go even deeper. Like, what about the themes and the symbolism? Those things that really give Harry Potter that staying power.
Oh, you're so right. There's a whole world of meaning beneath the surface. Like Rowling, she weaves all these layers of meaning into the story, and it makes us think about things like good and evil, love and loss, and even like the power of choice.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the books resonate with readers of all ages.
Yeah.
Because we're not just enjoying this magical adventure, we're actually wrestling with these really big questions like life and morality
Sure.
and the power of human connection.
One of the biggest themes, and you can see it even in these excerpts, is this idea of choice versus destiny. Right from the moment Harry finds out he's a wizard, he's faced with all these decisions that could completely change his future.
He could have just accepted that prophecy,
Hmm.
believing that his path was all laid out for him. But he doesn't. He actively chooses to fight for what he believes in, even when it means putting himself in danger.
And that's such a powerful message, especially for younger readers. It's telling them that they're not, just puppets of fate. They have the power to make their own choices, to carve out their own destinies, even when they're facing these massive challenges.
And it's a theme that just keeps popping up. Neville choosing to stand up to his friends, Ron choosing to go back to Harry and Hermione even when he was full of doubt, Dumbledore choosing to sacrifice himself for the greater good. They all show that we have agency, even in a world that feels unpredictable and kind of crazy sometimes.
And so many of those choices, they come from love, which is this other powerful force in the series. Lily's sacrifice for Harry, Snape's love for Lily, Harry's friendships with Ron and Hermione. It's like these are all testaments to how powerful love is, how it can overcome even the darkest curses.
And it's so much bigger than just romantic love. It's about family, loyalty between friends, the devotion to a place like Hogwarts that feels like home. It's that reminder that we're stronger together, that love gives us the strength to face those really difficult challenges.
And in the end, that love, that's what motivates Harry to defeat Voldemort. It's not about fulfilling the prophecy, it's about protecting those people he cares about so much and protecting their world.
It's like she's reminding us that love isn't just a feeling. It's a force, a power that Voldemort, with all his magic, he can never truly understand, never possess. And it's that love that makes Harry the true hero of the story.
But the series doesn't shy away from the darker side of human nature either. Like, there's that theme of prejudice and discrimination that runs throughout. The wizarding world, for all its wonders, it's not immune to those very real issues.
It's heartbreaking to see how the house elves are treated, the fear and prejudice against werewolves like Lupin. And then, of course, Voldemort's obsession with pure blood supremacy.
By bringing those issues into the story, I think Rowling is exposing how dangerous intolerance can be, showing the consequences of discrimination. And it's like she's challenging readers to look at their own biases and to fight for a world that's more just, more equitable.
Like Hermione's efforts with SPEW to improve the lives of house elves, Lupin's struggles, the persecution of Muggleborns. It's like these are all reminders that we need to stand up against prejudice and discrimination everywhere we see it.
And then on top of those really complex themes, Rowling uses symbolism to add even more layers of meaning to the story. Like, what about that scar on Harry's forehead?
It's not just a mark, is it? It's a symbol of his connection to Voldemort, a constant reminder of the tragedy that shaped his whole life and that darkness he has to face eventually.
The scar also represents how unique Harry is, his destiny as the boy who lived. But it also shows all the pain, all the suffering he goes through. And as the series unfolds, it becomes this physical reminder of that growing connection he has with Voldemort. It's both powerful and incredibly vulnerable.
It's fascinating how a tiny detail can mean so much. And then there's the Patronus charm, which is so much more than just a magical shield, right?
Oh, for sure. It's like this burst of positive energy, this guardian that protects you from those dark creatures. But it's also a representation of the character's inner strength, their hopes, their happy memories.
Like Harry's Patronus, the stag. It symbolizes that connection he has with his father, his own resilience. And then you have Ron's Jack Russell Terrier, reflecting his loyalty. And Hermione's otter, showing her intelligence and grace.
And those Patronuses, they're not just spells, they're reflections of who they are deep down, their values, the things that bring them joy, even when things are at their darkest. And of course, we can't forget the Deathly Hallows, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, the Invisibility Cloak.
Objects with incredible power. And they're just loaded with symbolism, aren't they?
Yeah.
They represent that desire for ultimate power, that desire to cheat death, and that need to be invisible.
But they also come with a warning. The quest to possess them, it leads to obsession, greed, and destruction. It's Harry rejecting those hallows, choosing love and self-sacrifice over ultimate power. That's what makes him a true hero.
It's like he's teaching us that real strength comes from inside,
Mm.
from the choices we make, the values we stand by. And that's a really powerful message about integrity and selflessness and that enduring power of human connection.
It's through those themes, those symbols that are so masterfully woven together, that Rowling takes Harry Potter beyond just a children's story. It becomes this world that's magical and deeply human at the same time. And it explores these universal truths that stay with you long after you finish the last page.
It's incredible how much depth and meaning we can find, even in these short excerpts. I feel like I need to go back and reread the whole series, Look for all those clues, those connections that I probably missed the first time.
And that's what makes it so amazing, right? There's always something new to find, another layer to peel back, another way to look at things. It's like Rowling's world. It's inviting us to explore, to ask questions, and to discover our own meaning in the story.
So as we wrap things up, why does all of this matter? Why should we even care about the themes and symbolism in Harry Potter?
Because it makes us understand the story better, and it makes us understand ourselves better. It encourages us to think about our own lives, the choices we make, the things we value. It pushes us to think critically, to question things, and to really engage with the world around us in a more meaningful way.
It reminds us that stories, they're not just entertainment. They're a way to learn, to grow, to connect. They let us walk in someone else's shoes, see things from a different perspective, and grapple with those complicated issues in a way that's safe and engaging.
And I think that's ultimately what makes Harry Potter so unique. It's not just about magic and adventures. It's about the power of human connection, how important it is to make your own choices, and that enduring victory of love over darkness.
It's a story that stays with you long after you've put the book down. It gets people talking, it inspires creativity, and it reminds us that even in the toughest times, there's always hope. There's always the possibility of a brighter future.
Welcome to our deep dive into the magical world of Harry Potter.
Mhm.
Specifically, foreshadowing. We're going to kind of look at how J.K. Rowling uses little hints and clues, to build such an intricate world. I mean, a story that keeps us guessing and hooked no matter how many times we read the books.
Yeah, it's amazing how foreshadowing works, on all these different levels. Sometimes it's like she's smacking us in the face with a hint, like a big flashing sign pointing to a massive reveal later on.
Right.
But other times it's so subtle, almost like it's happening beneath the surface. Just kind of adding these layers to the themes or making you understand why a character does something.
It's like she's I don't know, like those chess masters who are already thinking 10 moves ahead. We don't even realize what she's doing until much later.
Oh, absolutely. Like, the vanishing cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
In Prisoner of Azkaban, that thing seems like, what? Just a funny little magical item that causes trouble. Remember Montague? That Slytherin kid gets stuck in there, hears all those weird noises. It's played for laughs, mostly. But Rowling's already planting a seed there, something that becomes hugely important in Half-Blood Prince.
I gotta admit, like on my first read, totally missed it. That broken cabinet just seemed like a random detail, like it didn't matter.
And that's what's so brilliant about it. We don't get it until Malfoy tells us he's fixed the cabinet, made it into a secret passage so Death Eaters can sneak into Hogwarts. Then we understand what that little event in Book 3 really meant.
Yeah, it changes everything. Suddenly, it's not just some prank. It's like a calculated move in a much bigger, much darker game.
Exactly. And it makes us, the readers, feel like we're actually solving the mystery along with Harry. We get that aha moment when we see how it all connects.
Speaking of those aha moments, let's talk about Ron. He's often the funny guy, but you've said how some of his random comments actually foreshadow things that happen later. In a surprisingly accurate but also pretty funny way.
Ron's little pronouncements, they're such a great example of how Rowling puts foreshadowing in Boone, but with this touch of irony and humor. It's almost like she's giving him these glimpses into the future, but even he doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
Take his fear of spiders, right? In Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, yeah. He is terrified of spiders, those creepy crawlies. And guess what? They run into Aragog and that whole family of giant spiders in the Forbidden Forest.
You see, and some people might say, oh, it's just a coincidence, it's just funny because he's scared of spiders. But look closer. Ron's predictions often have a deeper meaning.
So you're saying it's not just about him guessing what's going to happen. It's like he's hinting at these bigger themes or anxieties that become important later on.
Exactly. Ron's fears, they're usually played for laughs, but sometimes they're like a warning. Like they're showing us the danger or darkness hiding beneath the surface. It makes his character, more complex. Like maybe he has this intuition that we don't always see because we're focused on Harry.
That's really interesting. It makes me think, how much do we miss on that first read, especially with a character like Ron, who we think is just the funny sidekick?
And it makes you want to reread the books. You start to see these little hints, those lines that seem like nothing, and you realize they meant something all along.
So we've seen how foreshadowing can create suspense, with big plot twists like that vanishing cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen how it adds depth to characters, like with Ron's comments. But what about using symbols? Like, how does Rowling use objects or imagery to hint at what's coming?
Oh, she's a master at that. One of the best examples is that locket we see in Order of the Phoenix. At first, it seems like just another mysterious thing in the Black family stuff. It's dark and ornate, and you can't even open it.
I remember thinking, that locket is so weird. It felt like it was important, but we didn't know why.
Exactly. And that's what she wants you to think. She makes this object feel super important, but she waits to tell you why. It's not until Half-Blood Prince that we figure out it's not just some necklace. It's a Horcrux. A piece of Voldemort's soul hidden away to make him immortal.
It gives you chills when you put it all together. That
Yeah.
thing we saw before, it was part of Voldemort's plan for power all along.
Right, and think about how she describes the locket. It's dark, it's hard to open, it makes you feel uneasy. All of that is foreshadowing the trouble Harry will have trying to destroy the Horcruxes later on.
It's like the locket itself is a tiny version of the whole fight against Voldemort.
Precisely. And it's not just about the locket being a Horcrux. Think about who finds it. Kreacher, the Black family house elf.
Oh, right.
At first, he seems like a pretty minor character, obsessed with the Black family and loyal to his dead mistress.
He's almost like a caricature of a grumpy house elf who wants to do things the old way.
But his attachment to the locket, his need to keep it safe, it hints at something more going on. Later, we learn that Kreacher actually helped Regulus Black steal the real Horcrux locket from Voldemort.
Wow, that's a crazy twist. This character, who seemed so unimportant, suddenly becomes a key player in fighting Voldemort. And his story changes how we see the locket and what it means.
It shows how good Rowling is at connecting all these different parts of the story. She reveals connections we never would have guessed, and it keeps us guessing. We're always changing our minds about characters and events as we go deeper.
So we've seen how foreshadowing can work with everyday objects and even minor characters.
Mm.
But what about the more magical stuff in Harry Potter? Like how do dreams and prophecies work as foreshadowing?
Ah, yes, dreams and prophecies. This is where Rowling takes foreshadowing to a whole other level. Like she's blurring the lines between what's a premonition and what's real, especially Harry's dreams. They're full of these cryptic clues and disturbing images.
It's like we're seeing into Voldemort's mind. We see his plans and what he's doing, but through Harry's eyes. It makes you feel so tense and scared.
Exactly. Take Goblet of Fire. Harry keeps having this dream of Voldemort torturing Wormtail. That dream foreshadows Voldemort coming back to power, but also those awful things that happened during the Triwizard Tournament.
And that dream in Order of the Phoenix, where he sees Sirius being tortured in the Department of Mysteries, that's what makes him rush off to save Sirius and leads to the big climax of the book.
Those dreams aren't just random nightmares. They're carefully planned stories that both hint at what will happen and show us what's going on inside Harry's head. He's carrying this heavy burden because of his connections, Voldemort. He's haunted by these visions that mix up his own thoughts and Voldemort's evil plans.
It's such a clever way to make the story suspenseful and raise the stakes. And at the same time, we're learning more about Harry's struggles. And then we have Professor Trelawney and her prophecies. They're always vague and full of, well, let's just say eccentric pronouncements.
Yes, Trelawney's prophecies are a unique kind of foreshadowing. She delivers them in this dramatic, almost funny way, but under all that theatrics, there are real glimpses into the future. The trick is figuring out what they mean.
It's like she's speaking in riddles. We have to work to understand the real message behind her cryptic words. And of course, the most famous prophecy is the one about Harry and Voldemort, the one that kickstarts the whole series.
Ah, yes, that prophecy that hangs over Harry like a dark cloud. It's a classic example of how foreshadowing can make you feel like things are meant to be, like destiny is already decided. But here's the interesting part. Even with this prophecy that seems so clear, Rowling still gives her characters choices. They have free will.
So it's not just about fulfilling the prophecy, it's about the decisions people make along the way, the paths they choose to take.
Exactly. That struggle between fate and free will is one of the most interesting parts of the series. And Rowling weaves it into the story through these prophecies and how people interpret them.
You know what? I think we need to pause here and let our listeners process all this. There's just so much to uncover. But don't worry, we'll be right back with more on foreshadowing in the world of Harry Potter.
Welcome back to our look at foreshadowing in Harry Potter. Like, it's crazy how much we've already found.
I know, right? It's like she's playing this huge game of magical chess, and we're just now starting to figure out how complex her moves are.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the coolest parts is how she introduces characters early on, almost like it doesn't matter. But then much later we find out how important they really were.
It's like those hidden pieces on a wizarding chessboard,
Yeah.
just waiting to jump out at the right time.
Exactly. Like Regulus Black. Sirius's younger brother, we hear about him a little bit in the early books. He's just another Death Eater, right?
Yeah.
But in Deathly Hallows, his story becomes really important. We learn about this incredibly brave thing he did, like defying Voldemort.
It's a huge reveal, and
Yeah.
it totally changes how we see Regulus, but also the whole fight against Voldemort.
And it makes you realize even those characters who seem minor can be super important. It shows how carefully Rowling built this whole world. Every detail, every character seems to have a purpose.
Yeah, it's like each character is a piece of a giant puzzle, and as we read the books, we slowly start to see how they all fit together.
And the way she uses foreshadowing to connect all those pieces, it's brilliant. Think about the locket again.
Yeah.
We talked about what it symbolizes, but remember who finds it? Creature. That house elf who belongs to the Black family.
Oh yeah, at first he seems like this kind of grumpy, insignificant character, totally fixated on his precious Black family heirlooms. But him being so attached to that locket, wanting to keep it safe, well, it takes on a whole new meaning once we know his connection to Regulus.
You got it. What seemed like crazy behavior was actually him being loyal. He felt a sense of duty to his old master. And it's through Creature that we learn about what Regulus did, stealing the real Horcrux locket from Voldemort.
And remember how Creature helps Harry get the fake locket back from Umbridge at the Ministry? He could only do that because he felt so strongly about that object and because he was loyal to Regulus's memory.
It's a perfect example of how Rowling weaves together those character stories, those plot twists, and all those deeper themes using foreshadowing. It also shows that even characters who seem minor have hidden depths. They have stories that add so much to the whole narrative.
It's actually saying everyone has the potential to be courageous and find redemption, even a house elf-like creature.
Exactly. And it makes us, the readers, pay more attention to everything, every detail, every little thing a character does, because we know even the tiniest clue could be important later.
It's like we're reading with a magnifying glass, hunting for those hidden bits of foreshadowing that make the story even richer.
And the best part is that every time you reread the books, you discover something new. You see things you missed before, make connections you didn't think of, and appreciate how complex Rowling's writing is.
I remember feeling that way when I finally understood what Harry's stag Patronus meant. At first I thought, oh, it's his dad, James Potter, watching over him. Because James was a stag animagus.
Yeah, that makes sense given what we knew at that point.
But then, in Prisoner of Azkaban, we find out that Patronus is actually Sirius. It's this beautiful moment that shows their bond, that connection between Godfather and Godson.
And it also hints at how Sirius will be a protector for Harry, a guardian figure. He's not just some escaped prisoner. He's someone who loves and supports Harry, who guides him.
Another example of how Rowling takes something simple, like the Patronus charm, and adds all this symbolic meaning and foreshadowing to it. It helps us understand the characters and their relationships even better.
And it shows how powerful foreshadowing can be in creating that emotional connection. It's not just about knowing what's going to happen, it's about making us care about the characters and what they go through, feeling the weight of their choices and the impact of their actions.
Speaking of emotional impact, let's talk about how foreshadowing makes you feel suspense, dread, even like something bad's about to happen. How does Rowling do that?
Oh, yeah, the dark side of foreshadowing. Rowling is amazing at building tension, making you feel that anticipation, often through those little clues and images that make you uneasy.
Like how green light keeps appearing in Harry's dreams and visions.
Exactly. At first, it's just a quick image, a flash of color that feels wrong. But as we learn more about the killing curse, with that bright green light, those flashes become really scary.
They become like warnings, telling us that death is close, that danger's lurking everywhere. And it's not just visual stuff like the green light. Rowling uses words, what characters say, to hint at what's coming and what they're struggling with inside.
Remember how Snape keeps telling Harry that fame isn't everything, especially when Harry's so focused on being a hero in Goblet of Fire?
It's like Snape's trying to warn him, telling him it's dangerous to want glory and that fame doesn't last. It's almost like he knows something bad's going to happen at the Triwizard Tournament.
And the irony is that Harry, wanting to prove himself, to be in the spotlight, leads him right into Voldemort's trap. The foreshadowing makes the whole thing feel tragically inevitable.
It breaks your heart, but it also shows how talented Rowling is as a writer. She makes us care deeply about these characters, but also reminds us that even in a magical world, you have to face the consequences of your choices.
And it's those consequences, those moments of victory and loss, that make the characters feel real. They grow, they learn, they screw up, and in the end, they create their own destinies.
It reminds us that even in the story with magic and prophecies, our choices are what really matter. But I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We still need to talk about how foreshadowing connects to fate and free will, which are such big themes in Harry Potter.
Yeah, definitely. That's a conversation we need to have. And we'll get into all of that in the last part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive. It's incredible how much we've already talked about with foreshadowing in Harry Potter, but I'm still stuck on this idea of fate versus free will, especially with all this foreshadowing going on.
Oh, yeah, that's a really important point. And it's something Rowling plays with throughout the whole series. On the one hand, we've got prophecies and omens, like these pronouncements about destiny that seem to control everything.
Like that prophecy about Harry and Voldemort, that one line, either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. Chilling. Makes it seem like everything's already been decided.
Right. But at the same time, we see characters making decisions all the time, some small, some huge, and those decisions end up shaping their lives.
Take Neville Longbottom. At first he seems clumsy and forgetful, like the opposite of Harry, but there are these little hints, these foreshadowing moments that make you think he's got this hidden strength.
Yeah, like in Philosopher's Stone when he stands up to his friends, even though he gets detention for it, or his talent for herbology, which ends up being really useful later on.
Exactly. Those little things hint at how important he'll be in the final battle. destroying the last Horcrux and standing up to Voldemort.
Neville shows us that fate might push us in a certain direction, but it's our choices, what we do, that really determines what happens.
And it's not just the main characters whose choices matter. Even someone like Dobby, a house elf, makes decisions that have a huge impact.
Dobby's loyalty to Harry, his courage to disobey his old masters, and his sacrifice in the end. All those actions change things in a big way.
It's like she's showing us that everyone has free will, not just the chosen one, the hero. Even those on the sidelines can make choices that matter. They can go against what's expected and change destiny.
Exactly. And by using this mix of foreshadowing, prophecy, and free will, Rowling makes a world that's complex and morally gray.
It's not just good versus evil. It's a world where people struggle with tough choices, they make mistakes, and in the end, they create their own destinies.
And that's what makes the book so captivating. It makes us think about our own choices, the power we have to defy expectations and make our own path, even when things seem impossible.
It reminds us that even in a world with magic and prophecies, it's human courage and compassion, the choice to pick love over fear, that really tips the scales.
It's a powerful message, and it's woven into the story through that clever use of foreshadowing, reminding us that even in a fantastical world, it's the choices we make that determine who we are.
Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into foreshadowing in Harry Potter. It's been amazing to explore how J.K. Rowling uses this technique to make the plot better, to help us understand the characters, and to make us think about those big questions of fate, free will, and the power of choice.
Absolutely.
All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into twists and turns. Those big reveals that make you go, wait, what?
Yeah.
We're looking specifically at the Harry Potter series and how J.K. Rowling uses them to really shape the characters and the story.
And it's not just about keeping us on the edge of our seats.
Oh, definitely not.
It's about making us care, making us rethink everything we thought we knew about a character.
Yeah. It's like with Snape. I mean, from the moment we meet him, he's this cloud of suspicion.
Yeah.
Every interaction with Harry just makes you think, okay, this guy is bad news.
And she does that so well, right? Rowling, she plants those seeds of doubt so carefully,
Yeah.
And both Harry and the reader, we totally buy into this, negative image of Snape.
Exactly. And it's not just a feeling. It's like those specific things she puts in there, like in Prisoner of Azkaban, everyone's convinced Sirius Black is after Harry.
Right.
And it's easy to assume Snape, with his history with Harry, is somehow involved.
Yeah.
But then it's like, on top of that, you've got Snape wanting that Defense Against Dark Arts job, which has been cursed every year, and then his treatment of Neville.
Ugh.
And Hagrid's outburst at the pub, calling him a murderer and traitor. Like, come on.
Yeah, and all of that points to him being a bad guy.
Right.
All signs point to villain.
But that's what's so brilliant about how she writes.
Yeah.
It's this elaborate setup that leads you down a path where you're absolutely sure he's evil, and then bam.
The rug is pulled out from under you.
Totally. The reveal that he was protecting Harry this whole time because of his love for Lily.
You never see it coming.
It's mind-blowing. And it's not just a shocking reveal for the sake of being shocking. It changes how we see him.
Totally.
All those actions that were so sinister, they suddenly have a whole new meaning.
It adds so much depth to his character, right?
Yeah.
He's not just a one-dimensional villain. He's complex. He's wrestling with his past and his loyalties and this love for Lily. It's just...
It makes you want to go back and reread those early books and look for all the hints you missed.
Absolutely. You want to see how she did it.
Yeah. It's like she's giving us this puzzle, and the pieces only fall into place when we have all the information. And speaking of those aha moments, Snape's reveal isn't the only one that makes you rethink everything.
Right.
The series is full of character deaths. They're not just shocking. They change the whole tone of the story.
Like Cedric's death in Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
It's a huge turning point.
I mean, up until then, there's this sense of safety at Hogwarts. Like, nothing truly bad could happen there.
Right.
But Cedric's death shatters that.
It brings in real stakes.
Yeah.
Real consequences.
Like a punch to the gut.
Yeah.
Right? You go from this fun tournament atmosphere to this sudden, brutal loss.
It's jarring.
And it's not just that we lose a character we care about.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that anyone to be next.
Yeah, that feeling of safety is just gone.
And that raises the stakes for everyone you know. Suddenly, we're not just worried about Harry passing his exams or winning a Quidditch match. We're terrified for him,
Exactly.
for everyone he's close to.
You're worried about their safety.
It's like the series takes this dark turn, and we're right there with Harry experiencing the fear and the loss with him.
You feel it too.
It's no wonder we get so invested in these characters and their fates.
You're on the journey with them.
And that investment, it just gets deeper with every loss.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Sirius falling through the veil in Order of the Phoenix Dumbledore's death in Half-Blood Prince.
Each one of them is just another blow.
It's like they chip away at that sense of security and just reinforce the danger that Harry and his friends are constantly facing.
And how he reacts to it all. Like when Harry discovers his connection to Voldemort.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a game changer.
Huge, right?
He goes from being this ordinary kid, with a famous scar, but still this ordinary kid, to suddenly realizing he's linked to the most powerful dark wizard of all time.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Confusing.
He's being forced to confront this destiny that he never asked for.
Like being thrown in the deep end and being told to sink or swim.
And to his credit, he swims.
He does.
We see him mastering the Patronus charm, confronting Voldemort in the graveyard, facing down Dementors, all these challenges. And a lot of them sprung on him with no warning.
Out of nowhere.
It pushes him to become this stronger, more resilient wizard.
And that's something Rowling does so well. She doesn't just throw in these twists for shock value.
Right.
They serve a purpose. They test the characters, they reveal their true nature, and they shape them into the heroes they need to be.
It's like she's throwing a curveball and saying, okay, let's see what you're made of.
Exactly. And it's not just the characters who are being tested, right? It's us, too.
The readers.
The readers. She plays with our expectations.
Totally.
Keeps us guessing. Makes us question everything we thought we knew.
Yeah. Like, you think you know what's going to happen? Think again.
And a big part of that is the way she uses the unreliable narrator.
Oh, yeah.
We experience the story through Harry's eyes, which means we only know what he knows.
We're limited by his understanding.
And that sometimes leads to some pretty surprising twists.
Especially in those early books. Think about Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
He can suddenly speak Parseltongue, which immediately makes everyone suspicious of him.
Totally.
Then there's the diary, which is influencing his thoughts and actions.
Yeah.
And the whole mystery of the chamber itself.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but you're missing some of the pieces.
Exactly. We're constantly questioning what's real, who to trust, what's going on.
So right there with Harry.
And it makes rereading so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because you pick up on all those little hints and foreshadowing moments you missed the first time.
Oh, that's why she mentioned that back in chapter 3.
Exactly. Like, she's rewarding us for paying attention, for being those readers who are really digging deep.
For looking for those hidden layers of meaning.
And that brings us to another brilliant thing she does, foreshadowing. She'll sprinkle clues throughout the series that only make sense in hindsight.
It's so satisfying when you finally get it.
Oh, totally. It's like, haha, now it all makes sense. The Marauder's map in Prisoner of Azkaban is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah?
At first, it's just this cool tool for sneaking around.
A fun little gadget.
But then we find out its deeper significance, its connection to Lupin, the truth about Pettigrew.
And it completely changes how you see it.
Right. It's like mind blown.
It was there all along.
And there are so many other examples. Trelawney's predictions, Dumbledore's cryptic advice.
Oh, yeah?
It's like she's playing this long game, planting these seeds of doubt, and then bam.
Flipping the script.
Totally. And it makes you want to reread the whole series just to see how she pulls it off.
To see all the clues you miss.
It's like she's saying, hey, I put all this work into crafting this world. Come back and explore it again.
And you'll find even more to love. There's so many twists and turns that come to mind. But one that always gets me is the reveal of Snape's true allegiance. It just makes you question everything you thought you knew about him and his motivations. It's like watching the whole story through a new lens. You see all those actions that seemed so negative in a totally different light.
It's a complete game changer.
Yeah.
Suddenly, his snarky comments and that harsh demeanor, they take on this tragic quality. You realize he's carrying this huge weight of guilt and unrequited love, and it fuels everything he does.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
It makes you wonder, though, do any other character transformations stand out to you in the same way?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Neville Longbottom's journey is a great example. He starts out as this timid, clumsy kid, always losing his toad and struggling to keep up in class. But there's this hidden strength in him, you know? This
Yeah.
this quiet determination that slowly emerges as the series goes on,
It's like watching a butterfly emerge from its cocoon.
right?
He faces his fears head on, whether it's standing up to his friends battling Death Eaters or even defying Voldemort himself. It's incredibly inspiring.
I think so too.
What do you think triggers that transformation in him?
It's a bunch of things, really.
Yeah.
Losing his parents to Voldemort's cruelty, the constant threat to the wizarding world, the unwavering support of his friends. It all plays a role. But I think it's his own inner strength, you know? His refusal to give up. That's what ultimately drives his transformation. It really makes you think about how these twists and turns affect not just the plot, but the characters' internal journeys,
Oh,
too.
for sure.
You know?
It's like Rowling's throwing these curveballs at them, forcing them to face their
Yeah.
fears and discover this hidden courage and resilience they didn't even know they had.
It's like she's saying, okay, let's see what you're made of.
Exactly. And it's not just about facing those external threats, right?
Right.
Some of the most powerful twists are those internal struggles,
Yeah.
like Harry discovering his connection to Voldemort.
Yep.
It's not just a revelation about his past or destiny. It's a challenge to his sense of self.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine being told you share a connection with the darkest wizard of all time? That a part of him lives inside you? That's terrifying.
It would completely upend everything you thought you knew about yourself.
And how do you even process that?
It's a question that Harry wrestles with throughout the whole series, right?
Yeah.
He's afraid that this connection makes him less than good, that he's somehow tainted by Voldemort's darkness. But what's so interesting is that he doesn't let it define him. He chooses to fight against it, to forge his own path and embrace his own values.
That's part of what makes him such a compelling character, right? He's faced with these extraordinary circumstances, these shocking revelations, and he never gives up.
He keeps fighting.
He keeps learning. He keeps growing. It's like he's saying, you may have given me this connection, but I won't let it control me. I will choose my own destiny.
That's such a powerful message for readers, especially young ones.
It's a reminder that we all have the power to choose who we want to be, no matter our past or the challenges we face.
And sometimes it's those unexpected twists, those moments of adversity that really show us our true strength.
And speaking of unexpected twists,
Yeah.
Rowling is a master of bringing back characters we thought were gone for good.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sirius escaping from Azkaban. Oh my gosh. I was jumping for joy when that happened. It's like this ray of hope in all the darkness. It gives Harry a connection to his family and a glimpse of the life he could have had.
And it's such a pivotal moment for the story, too. Not just for Harry's emotional well-being. Sirius becomes this essential ally, this source of guidance and support for Harry as he navigates the increasingly dangerous wizarding world.
It's so heartbreaking, though, because we know that happiness is fleeting in this world.
Yeah, you just know it can't last.
And Sirius's death, it hits even harder because of that brief period of joy and connection they had.
It does.
It's a stark reminder that nothing is guaranteed, especially in a war against evil.
She does that so well, though, right?
Yeah.
Rowling, she gives us these glimpses of hope, these moments of light, only to snatch them away and remind us of the danger that's always lurking.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat, wondering who's going to be next.
Absolutely. It's what makes her writing so gripping you can't put it down.
It's not just the magic and the adventure. It's those real emotions. The fear, the loss, the love. It all feels so real, so relatable, even in this fantastical world.
You're so invested in the characters.
And it's those real emotions, those raw and vulnerable moments that keep us coming back for more. We connect with these characters so deeply. We experience their joys and sorrows like they're our own.
And sometimes she just throws us a curveball we never saw coming.
Oh, absolutely. I have to confess, I was completely fooled by Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye Moody in Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. What a twist.
It's a masterclass in deception, playing with our expectations and making us question everything we thought we knew.
I mean, we're led to believe that Moody is this eccentric but trustworthy Auror,
Right.
there to guide and protect Harry.
He seems so harmless.
And the reality is so much darker. He's manipulating Harry, steering him toward Voldemort, all while hiding in plain sight.
It makes you realize how easily we can be deceived, especially by those we trust. And it adds this layer of paranoia to the story, right? You start to wonder, who else can we trust? Who else might be hiding their true intentions?
And that question lingers throughout the whole series, especially as the conflict gets more intense.
It makes you examine every interaction, every motive,
Yeah.
looking for those subtle clues that might point to a hidden agenda.
It's like a giant game of chess. You're trying to predict the next move, but you're also aware that the board might be red.
Right. It's exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time.
And it's what keeps us glued to the page, right?
Mm-hmm.
The constant anticipation, the fear of the unknown, the possibility of betrayal lurching around every corner. It's amazing that she can maintain that level of suspense for 7 books.
It really is. And it's not just the big reveals that keep us hooked.
Right.
She'll weave in these tiny details that seem insignificant at the time,
Yeah, right.
but then they turn out to have huge implications later on.
It's like she's planting these seeds, knowing they'll blossom into full-blown revelations down the line.
Like in Philosopher's Stone,
Yeah.
when Harry sees Quirrell's face in the mirror of Arised,
Yeah.
and he notices that he looks scared.
Ah, I see.
At the time, it's just quick observation.
A fleeting moment.
But later, when we find out that Voldemort is literally attached to the back of Quirrell's head,
It all clicks.
it's like, whoa, she planned that all along. It makes you want to go back and reread everything, searching for all the clues you missed. And you start to see the story in a whole new light.
You appreciate the depth and complexity of her world building.
And that's what makes this series so rewarding to reread. You're not just revisiting a familiar story.
Yeah.
You're uncovering hidden layers of meaning.
Making connections you didn't see before.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Each reread reveals new depths and complexities. And those moments of realization, those aha moments, they're just pure gold.
They're rewards for paying close attention, for being an active reader. It's amazing that she can craft a narrative that's both entertaining and thought-provoking, that appeals to people of all ages.
Okay, speaking of details that have a big payoff later,
Right.
what's one of your favorite examples? Something that seemed insignificant at first, but turned out to be crucial to the story.
Ooh, there are so many good ones. But the one that always gives me chills is that locket Horcrux in Half-Blood Prince, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That whole creepy cave scene, the potion Dumbledore has to drink.
So intense.
But it's the locket itself that really gets me thinking.
It's deceptive, right?
Yeah.
At first, it just seems like another one of Voldemort's soul pieces tucked away.
Right, like just another dark object.
But as we go through the story, we realize it's so much more than that.
It's connected to so much.
And then in Deathly Hallows, we find out it belonged to Salazar Slytherin.
One of the founders of Hogwarts.
And those initials REB inscribed on it.
Oh man, that reveal.
Dills.
It's like a hidden story within the story.
And then we learn they belong to Regulus Arcturus Black.
Sirius's younger brother.
Yeah, Death Eater, who had a change of heart and sacrificed himself trying to destroy that locket Horcrux.
Talk about a twist.
It blew my mind. This character we never even meet, and his actions have this huge impact on the whole fight against Voldemort.
It adds so much to the story, right?
It does. To the Black family, to Sirius's story, to the war itself.
It makes you wonder how much of this did she plan from the very beginning.
I know.
It's like she had this giant tapestry in mind and knew exactly where each thread needed to go.
It's incredible. You know, speaking of threads and connections, I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier. The unreliable narrator.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just that we're seeing things through Harry's limited point of view, but that she's purposely keeping information from them.
Right, like she's holding back and then revealing it later from another character's perspective.
And those moments are like little gifts to us, the readers, you know.
They are. They're like sneaking a peek behind the curtain.
It's like she's letting us see the bigger picture that Harry's completely unaware of.
And it changes everything.
Like in Order of the Phoenix, when we see Snape's worst memory.
Oh, yeah.
Through Harry's occlumency lessons. It's so painful for Harry. So embarrassing.
But it's such an important moment for us as readers.
It gives us this crucial insight into Snape's past, his relationship with Harry's parents, and the resentment that's driving him.
It helps us understand him better.
It's a turning point in how we see him. We go from seeing him as this bitter, vindictive professor to this complex and wounded person who's been shaped by this traumatic childhood.
It makes his actions make more sense.
Exactly. It doesn't excuse his behavior, but it helps us see him in a new light. And then in Deathly Hallows, we get those glimpses into Snape's memories through Dumbledore. Talk about a revelry.
Snape changes everything.
We see how deeply he loved Lily, the sacrifices he made to protect Harry, the burden he carried all those years. It reframes his entire character arc.
He goes from double agent to true hero.
I was sobbing by the end of it.
Yeah.
You're just hit with this wave of understanding and compassion. You realize how much he loved Lily, how much he regretted his past, and how he ultimately gave his life to save Harry.
It's one of the most powerful moments in the whole series.
It really is. It makes you realize that even those who seem like the enemy can have hidden depths, that good and evil aren't always so black and white.
And it makes you appreciate forgiveness and redemption, even when there's so much loss and pain.
This has been an incredible journey. We've explored how twists affect character development, reader engagement, even our understanding of good and evil.
Yeah.
Really makes you appreciate how masterfully Rowling crafted this series.
Absolutely. The way she weaves together these complex plots, these amazing characters, and these unexpected twists that keep you guessing until the very end.
It's incredible that even after all these years, the Harry Potter series still captivates people of all ages. It's a world you can escape to, a story you can revisit over and over again, always finding something new, something that makes you think and feel and connect with the characters in a whole new way.
It's magic.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we want to leave you with this. How do those twists and turns that we face in our own lives shape us? Those unexpected challenges and revelations. How do they help us grow? What hidden depths might we discover within ourselves and others if we embrace the unexpected and look beyond the surface?
It's something to think about, isn't it? Maybe by questioning our assumptions, by seeking out different perspectives, by being open to the unknown, we can better understand our own journeys and discover a world of wonder and possibility waiting for us.
That's a perfect note to end on. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the magic alive.